provided the need that you have as a user meets with the features that you're presenting, you interact with it and you record that is recorded as data, and that's used to profile. So this is how you go about designing something from usability or whatever of that. So for this session, I decided I'll speak with some people who I've worked with in the past 25 years that I've been in IT. So software engineers whom I worked with as a designer, a cognitive neuroscience professor from NIMHANS, and also I spoke with Nandan Nilekani, asking him for his views. I said, I'm coming to Pune to talk to designers, and is there any message or what's your view? So I'm going to summarize my learnings through this period. The first concept that I came across when I was at Infosys in '95 was it's an artificial construct. You can say it's a logical separation of what is UI and the engineering below. So what we do is spend a lot of time designing everything above the line of visibility. So whether it is today's gestures or all the clicks, taps, whatever you do, how you engage with. So that's the space you are in, and the navigation, everything is above the line of visibility. But a lot of it is generated from by the systems below that you have. So the interesting thing is the things above the line of visibility have changed a lot. When I started, it was about migrating from command line interfaces to thick clients, then the web, then mobile, then you have voice interfaces. So I've been through a lot of these changes. So change is one very big thing in this. So this line is very artificial. It's separating it, but it's important for us to to simplify, I thought I'll take one such object which you design. It's a metaphor, it's as a call to action button. Essentially, there is a functional aspect below the line of visibility. I mean, there is a product which is supposed to do something for you, and it presents itself so that you can interact, engage with it. And provided the need that you have as a user meets with the features that you're presenting, you interact with it and you record that is recorded as data, and that's used to profile. So this is how you go about designing something from usability or whatever of that. And so this is a classical way of doing it. In these days, you have a lot more engineering below, so you do A/B testing, which is one way to gather more data. So the engineering is trying to say, can we know more about what the users are doing? So there's even more data. And so broadly, you think of that widget that I put, it's not just a button, it's a placeholder. It's a concept to talk about. It could be anything, wherever every day you interact with in our digital space. And so it could be how you engage with a bike that you want to rent, or order something, a meal, or any number of the other transactions, financial. So you're doing it all the time with your phone, things like that. So think of it as that. So is this really, so my observation is that it's really not the UI that you're dealing with, but you're dealing with it. Is it like, the purpose really is that it's actually data that it's supposed to generate. So, I mean, this is a well-known, well-discussed thing about how binge watching is encouraged. Now, this auto play is actually something they did a A/B testing of, and they found that it's not 5 seconds or 10 seconds, but 15 seconds is when the product managers or at Netflix, their KPIs were, or their goals were, like, how do you drive more watching and basically hours of watching and increase that and the retention. So this, they found through their data that that number, 15 seconds, makes a huge difference to the whole watching. And so this encourages binge watching. So I was discussing these aspects also with these professors at neuroscience and understanding what is it. So the thing is, you could do this in two ways as an interface. And when I'm saying about the line of visibility, it could be that you, in 10 seconds, it's going to start the next episode. So there is the whole hot cognition, which is where you say, hey, why not? I don't mind. I just want to know what happens next. And you don't act on it. You just let it play. So it encourages that. The other is what is referred to as deferred gratification, where your executive control, the prefrontal cortex, that takes over, and you say, okay, no, I need to sleep. Maybe I can watch it tomorrow, or whatever. So it allows that interrupt. And it's because it's involving, it's asking you to take a call, decide. So these aspects of design are what we are seeing increasingly in a lot of the software today. The other aspect I'm seeing is that the amount of engagement, I mean, you're seeing richer and richer user experiences. Now, the left side is a typical Google map, which gives you directions, along with traffic data and very dynamic. And the other is air controller's screen. Both these require a lot of attention. And in one, like the right side, it's a requirement that the attention of the air traffic controller is there. I mean, they are completely engaged with that. Because cognitively, the attention is a scarce resource, and there's a lot of demand on it. But when you're driving, when I have so much information, is it okay to keep on improving it and increasing the user experience for stickiness or for various other reasons, like the Netflix case? Is it detrimental? Is it a distraction? These are the kind of questions one may ask. So the other point is, I mean, I'm taking a scientist's approach, saying, when you have different experiments, what's your opinion? So as designers, we are very intuitive. We want to, we feel that this is better, or that works better. But when you have this data-driven, these aspects, I realized through my career, cause some kind of conflict. So you get, in fact, your design decisions can get overruled because the data says so. So then, I mean, that's so far about the future. Now, coming back to the button. So today you have, with AI and ML, I worked a bit the last 10 years. I ran a big data company, and we worked a lot on predictive analytics. So it's possible that through a lot of the data, you can actually generate that call to action. So the system is going to put that button there for you. And so how do you, what happens then? And what is the role of design is what I'm inquiring as these changes happen over my career. So Wix is one of those companies like the Grid. These are artificial intelligence driven, and for this conference, I thought, let me try and use this tool and show something. So they claim what is called artificial design intelligence. So I tried to make a website for using that. So I'm not going to design, I let the tool design. And so I gave these inputs, and of course it's been designed by somebody. Then you have all this details, said, okay, it's good. And so it says, okay, choose a theme. I chose something. It created the pages. And then it said, do you want a logo? So I said, yeah. So it's going to design a logo for me. So I said, okay, what's it about? Design Expo. It gave me some terms like, okay, how do you want? So I chose those playful, fun, creative, fresh, at that point. And I said, okay, so immediately it shows me these and says, okay, do you like any of these? Where do you want to use them? Then it's finding my style, and then it gave me these options. And so I kept scrolling. Okay, some more options. It's just seconds away, and then some more options. And I mean, after a point, you just get tired. So there is another site like Canva, which is another of these are all new companies which are emerging very strong. And so you just put any image and it extracts a color palette for you. So I put in the PDF logo and I got these. Then you have things like these smart mockups. I put it there, it gives me a nice mockup of these. So the question in my mind is, as designers, with all these advances in technology, what's your role? What is your expertise? And are you about your taste? Are you just about the strategy for design? What are the design decisions that you're going to make? Because it's the way the technology is changing. And so are you going to be just a gatekeeper? Today there are, at least in the IT or all these platforms and services companies, you have design systems where there is the entire, like the buttons, the widgets, everything, the screens, the layouts, they're all as well-defined code, which is sort of literally maintained by the design team. And as they add new functionality with every sprint, aggressively they keep changing it. It just follows this pattern. So what exactly is the role of designer today in our industries? I mean, especially when you have those tools that I showed you. So here, of course, Christensen theory is some of its people dispute. Like there is this whole thing he's responded saying competing with luck. But nevertheless, I thought it's an interesting case. So I tried to map these new companies like Wix, Canva. These are the grid.io. These are companies which are generating UI. And they are the so-called disruptors at the low end of the market. And on the top, you have Adobe. So when I'm working with the developers and engineers, they have a sense of taste. So in fact, I asked some of those software developers, how do you understand design? So they said, look, I am using so many apps. By looking at those apps, and I developed a sense of design. And to me, that's how I make a decision. And so when they have tools like these Wix, they're able to go ahead and create it. They ask me for my opinion, or what do you think, So this kind of, and to them, Adobe is such a difficult tool to use. In fact, I would also struggle to work with some of it. It's a big learning curve. But you look at the others. So what is the kind of result you're getting? And what is going to be in the mainstream? Who's going to disrupt? So these are some of the things we have to ponder about. And as designers, if we are about a skill, or you're about your Adobe or any of those products, maybe you need to rethink. I mean, that's just an observation I have, or these are the questions I have. But yeah, so on the other hand, what are the limits of that? I mean, if you saw some of those logos that it generated, I mean, maybe none of them will meet your requirement or judgment. So like this is this kind of juxtaposition which an artist would do. Can a system or AI develop that? This is still up for grabs, and people are saying, yes, AI can paint, but it depends on how it's trained, right? So then we get to the rough edges of interfaces. Often you come across these are where things break down when they are automated, like a lot of chat things. So when almost everybody has a female named chat bot which is going to assist you at every site, but you start chatting with it in natural language, and after a point it can't, maybe 2-3 questions down, and it says, okay, I'm going to put you to an agent so you can, so they don't really solve much. I think probably Amazon has done a better job of some of these things in terms of picking up the context and working in a natural language. This is a little older. So the question, I did in 2013, in my company, we built a chatbot for customer service. So the question in my head was, why should it imitate human language? It's after all a machine. So, I mean, some of the questions I had is, like, you know, how do we talk to pets? Apparently, I mean, so I found a lot of researchers there that we tend to use sort of baby language, you know, cute. We use very short 2-3 word sentences. So why are we not looking at those kind of aspects? No, the question is not, I'm not saying this is going to work, but these are directions of thinking which don't exist. It's somebody says, look, I'm going to do it in natural language, and it's going to imitate human speech. So I think as a designer, I think we have the opportunity. What we are left with, I feel, is just that imagination to reimagine any of these interactions. And I think that's what we need to probably more lean on more as the skill part is being taken away. I was designing an Alexa skill for cooking, and so at that point I thought, what's the mnemonic that I can think of? So I was thinking of the Goldilocks and the 3 balls. So can I reduce all the, because it's voice based, you know, short-term memory, you can only retain. So I want to give an instruction. So should I use a mnemonic like this to design that skill for that for this small service? So, you know, I think these are kind of opportunities as designers that we have to engage what I'm saying beyond these visible, tangible, and go deeper. So how did I do some of these things, and how did I attempt? I thought I'll just show you just a couple of examples from some of the work I did. One of them was in 2016-17 when I was working with Ekstep, which is founded by Nandan and Rohini and Shankar. So I started asking, so how do you design participation? Can you design participation? And here it's going to be a data-driven thing. So how do you design for that? What is the action? How do you capture that? So we have a platform which performs a lot of these actions. You can demonstrate lessons or content. You can configure what you want to see. You can play the content, explore, browse, discover, all that. So there are in a typical platform, there's a producer, buyer, like there's a rider in a Uber, and there's a cab driver. There is in the same sense, there's a learner and there's a teacher. So what I try to do as a designer is to imagine those interactions. Can I create new kind of interactions which will generate more data which they want, and in such a way that it's calibrated? When should I celebrate? Or what should be the frequency? There are certain actions I need to give, like maybe 10 times, 10 events I generate within maybe a session, Or on a screen, they're on, I probably generate 5 events. But maybe over a week's worth of working with the application, I capture maybe 1 event. So the ability to think that through. So this is, if you see the lower part, instructions, the content, all those elements are what you would do in a classical UI or design. To increase the engagement, I said the platform is going to generate these by observing. So in the previous slide, what I was showing you as those deliberate actions for celebrate are something you don't place anything. That's a widget would pop up in the same sense as that button would be generated using some scripts to help you feel maybe a sense of delight or belonging or motivation. So which the machine learning would drive. So these are, the platform would do it. It's that kind of a blended or hybrid way of where you are, I would say the lower ones for me were like the guardrails within which the machine-generated UI would exist. So some of these ideas are what I was thinking of. The other options, I mean, I think in this world of technology as it's growing is for us to reach, and I felt is to look at history. So how do you imagine what you want? So one of the things about education is that everything to assess is a multiple choice question. Everything is ABCD. And because it's easier to assess, grade, compute, and maybe even give feedback. What if, so I found this, I was given this reference from Chakradhar at NID. So about Gandharva period art, 2000 years old. So how narratives were done on coins, that's the entire Jataka tale told, entire story is on one stone. Or about how these were, stories were told in the Sanchi Stupa and places like that. So I tried to see if I can leverage these principles and apply it in a digital context. So when you interact, it not only generates those events, but it tests that is about, at the end of a story of this Sringeri Srinivas goes for a haircut. It's a comprehension question. Can you trace his journey? Where did he go first? Where did he go next? So because that's the whole purpose of language. So how do you redesign? Or the other one is from an algorithmic point of view. It's like people would make mistakes with math. 2 plus 2, they put 5, let's say. I mean, hypothesis. And can we change the question whenever a wrong answer is given instead? So maybe it will prompt some critical thinking. So these are the kind of aspects I felt a designer could explore when you're dealing with technology beyond the visible. So you are today going to be doing more of maybe a product manager's role, what is conventionally known, and help define what the product experience should be beyond the user interface. This example of, I just wanted to share is about a Russian person. Her boyfriend died, so she was an artificial intelligence, she was a developer, so she fed almost 3 million or 8 million lines of Russian into a neural network. And after training it on Russian script, because it was earlier trained only on English, she then fed all her text from her boyfriend, who was dead, and completely, after removing some of the sensitive messages, and she gave it to her, that boyfriend's mother. And the mother said, there was a lot I didn't know about my child. That guy's name is Roman Mazurenko. So Roman's mother told me, but now that I can read about what he thought about different subjects, I'm getting to know him better, more. She didn't, because these are artificial conversations, right? But it's just that the responses are exactly like how he would be. And I think these are kind of places where people are trying to get to as far as technology goes, that improved authenticity. So when I asked Nandan, and what is your message, and he said this, I thought, oh, does he mean it in the Dieter sense, less is more? So that's when I felt it's my learning is that, look, while there are all those Wix and other things trying to do things, it's not the skill, but I need to go deep below the visible line and make the design which appears on top much better. Thanks.